Hey, welcome back to another exciting week of YOML. As you all know, it's Stanford Year of Magical Learning. Today we are starting on a brand new book, Reflection 154, and we're going to go back to ancient Greece and talk about lessons from that era.
Yeah, yeah, it's called The Song of Achilles by the author Madeline Miller. Have you ever heard of this one before?
No, I have not.
I think it's a pretty well-known fiction novel, but I don't read a lot of fiction novels, so I couldn't tell you.
The Greek mythologies fictions.
I think they all are, right? Just by
Yeah?
definition. Yeah. So this isn't a Greek mythology like book. This is a book about Greek mythology. It's like an adaptation of somebody writing about the Odyssey, one of the two. Anyway, the story is about it's kind of like a love story about Achilles and his lifelong lover called Patroclus. He was an exiled prince from his own homeland that ended up living where Achilles lived, and they became really close friends at first, and then they slowly became kind of lovers over time. And even though Achilles had his own family and wives and things like that, it had this unspoken relationship bond. Everybody knew that they were joined at the hip together. So the story is really about their love story, I guess, and how that endured through the Trojan War, the traditional story of Achilles, which is, they all jump on a boat and they go to the Trojan War and they're there for, I don't know, whatever it is, like 10, 20 years or however long it took. And, they fight until Achilles dies, in battle. And that's about the whole story. So I won't ruin the story, but long story short, it's like Achilles's mythology linked into the story about him and his male lifelong companion and their kind of love story together in a weird way. It was an interesting book. It was it's this is why I don't do fiction. So the I'm sure this story sounds not interesting to you in a lot of ways, right?
You
Yeah.
could say
Right.
that.
So the reflection title of this one is you can't run from your purpose. And the reason why it's interesting context to start with what this book was about, because like I was just talking about, I always really struggle with like pure fiction novels like the Song of Achilles and like what is the lesson that I could take out of this out of this book. They're just so abstract, and feels like I'm just always grasping at straws kind of stuff a lot of times when I read like a fiction novel versus like nonfiction or narrative nonfiction or memoirs. It's always stories of humanity and things that you can easily take, or a business book or a science book or or natural history book. Like there's always something that they're very explicit and overt about what the context and the point of the story is about, so
Mhm.
it's easy for me to learn something new every day, a core value that's important to me through those books, which is why I typically tend to lean on them a lot more heavily when I'm going through this journey. However, that said, one of my other core values is don't do it alone. We've talked about that a lot over the course of this journey. And I happened to be out at dinner one night. We had a team meeting in like Boston, I want to say, or something like that. I got to meet one of our new solution engineers, and he had been following along with some of these blog postings that I've been posting on LinkedIn or something like that, I think, because he was connected with me. And we ended up chatting over dinner one night. We had a big group dinner, and he was asking me about Amelia, and he was asking me about my life and things like that because he was kind of curious about it and trying to figure out what's all that about. And as you know, one of my favorite pastimes, my lifelong mission these days, is to talk about my daughter and to let people know about how amazing she is. So it was right up my alley to have some good conversations, and of course, a lot of the conversations started to steer around some of my favorite books, and he was asking me a lot of my recommendations. So we were having a great conversation about this, and I found out his fiance is a NICU nurse, and so another connection point. Obviously, NICU nurses are really amazing people, and people that have had a huge impact on my life and my family's life in general. Yeah, just kind of hit it off. The guy's like a really good guy. That's what these books are for, right? Don't do it alone. So naturally, I asked him what were his favorite books and anything that he would recommend, and he was like, "Well, I typically only read a lot of fiction books," but he goes, stories. One of the stories that I would say that I learned the most from was the Song of Achilles, and I was like, somebody that's a nice person, that I don't want to do this alone. We spent a nice dinner engaging about things that are interesting to me, and I get to talk to my daughter and talk about my daughter. So I was like, hey, what the hell? Why not? Right? Like, challenge myself was the other core value, right? So I was like, let's give this thing a go, right? So I started this book and definitely was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but that's the whole point of a lot of this journey. So I read it. I liked it. It was a good story. When it comes to the lesson to be able to share back to this world, I was struggling pretty hard with this one. I was asking my wife, like, told her about the whole story, and I was asking her I don't know what to write about on this one. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of lost. She gave me some ideas, and I was like, I don't know. That it just doesn't feel right, you know. And then I had happened to finish this book on a Sunday afternoon, and on Sundays, almost every Sunday, as long as I'm in town, I go visit Amelia. And I was at the cemetery, and I was talking to her. We were recapping, and we were doing our weekly L10 meeting where we would talk about living for two and living the mission together and things like that. And I just asked her, I was like, what did I learn in this book? You know, so I was at the cemetery and I was just thinking about it. And then it just hit me. Like she helped me figure it out. And I woke up the next morning ready to write about the idea of don't run away from your purpose. The thought that kind of came across my mind was, you know, we spend so much time in this world wanting a purpose. Like humans want purpose so much, right? I mean, you hear it all the time is people want a purpose. I want to feel like I'm doing something that's purposeful or living a purposeful life. In my opinion, that's special and rare, right? Everybody wants a purpose. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody deserves a purpose. It's my personal belief that they are not acquired. I think that they find you, right? And a lot of times that purpose is found in pain. I know that was where mine was found, and that's because it strips everything away and you're just kind of left with that one thing left in your mind that you can really latch onto. And a lot of times that becomes your purpose. It's ironic because people say they want this purpose, and then when you find it in pain, that's the kind of last thing that you want at all in general, right? So for me, I know, I mean, we've talked about this before as well. Like I would give my purpose back in a heartbeat, but you know, that's the thing about purposes is you can't run away from it. Like once you have it and once you know it, it's going to be with you no matter what. So you either do it or you don't do it, but it's not going anywhere. It's either going to eat you alive or it's going to help you to save yourself, and it's going to help you to feel fulfilled and find meaningful work and find those meaningful connections and all that other stuff. So it's either you run away from it or you run right at it. And that was what the story made me think about, was it had come full circle. It brought me back to Achilles. So Achilles, from day one, when he was born, he had a purpose. His goddess mother knew it, and she told him the whole entire time, like, don't ever go into this Trojan War. She was like, you're gonna die and you're gonna get killed by, I forget the guy that killed him, but she was like, you're gonna die and it's gonna be by this guy and he's gonna do this, you know, to you. And so his whole entire life, he avoided ever trying to go to this war. And even when he was there, he knew, like, oh, he saw the guy like on one of the first battles, and he was like, oh, it's all right. As long as I just stay away from him and make sure that we're doing our own thing, like, you know, it's fine. I don't need to worry about it, because he didn't want to, like, you know, lose the love of his life and Patroclus, and you know, and his, you know, he didn't want to blah blah blah. Anyway, so his whole entire life, literally, he just tried to avoid this battle and this guy. And long story short, he was forced into it eventually, a conflict with this particular dude, and he did end up dying from this particular guy. And in the meantime, though, it took him decades to learn that, and a lot of different famine and heartache and the wake of destruction. And he left this world with full of regrets. And like he was like, man, I should have just done this a long time ago, right? You know, and it caused worse outcomes at the end of the day when, you know, he spent his whole entire life trying to not live his purpose, you know. So that was what I was thinking about for this book. I mean, it was pretty abstract thought, but at the end of the day, you know, you're either if you're blessed or cursed to have a purpose and you know what it is, you're either running away from it or running toward it. I know what I'm doing. I'm running straight toward it, because if I didn't, I'd be letting my daughter down. But, you know, take a lesson from dudes like Achilles. When you run away from it, it doesn't go anywhere, and it just makes it worse. It's almost like lying. It's like you either just own up to it or you don't, right? And go from there. So that's it. That was the reflection for the day. Question would be, are you running away from your purpose like Achilles, or are you choosing to embrace it head on? Love to get your thoughts.
Right. So the reflection title say you can't run away from your purpose.
You can't?
I disagree. You can.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you can. It will find you.
So what I'm saying is, I think the reflection should be, don't run away from your purpose. That's the lesson. Amelia put it more eloquently than you did. I'm siding with Amelia on this one.
Fair enough.
I think the lesson should be, don't run away from it. You can run away from your purpose, but you're gonna be miserable.
Yes, that was the point. Yes.
So for me, is, you know, I think that this book is a fiction book, so there's a lot of stuff that you know, it really is to illustrate a lessons, but you know, it's more dynamic in real life. So, you know, as far as whether or not, you know, Achilles is forced into doing something or not, it can be debated. But for me, everyone have, so to me, everybody has three states, right? They have what I call, like, you live in the past. When you live in the past, you have depression. You live in the future, you have anxiety. The state you want is the state where you are at peace with yourself, where you say, this is where I belong.
Texas.
Right?
You get it, the state where you want. Texas.
So basically is when you are a beaver, you need to be in a dam. If you're in a desert, it feels like you're out of place. You won't
Right.
feel comfortable. You won't feel at peace. So every single one of us, quote unquote, has a purpose because we need to be in the right cusp of that purpose to feel that state. So you can be away from your purpose. A beaver can be in a desert where there's no water, there's no tree, there's no nothing to swim. His pelt becomes his greatest weakness
Right. Yeah.
because instead of having the pelt to protect him from the wet, the water and whatnot, it becomes encased and can't breathe through and can dissipate heat and all that. So his strength becomes his weakness. If
Yep.
you are going away from where you're supposed to be, you will suffer. You will be miserable.
Around you will suffer and be miserable too.
Yeah,
Like,
they care about me. But the people around me, that if they are in sync with me, it will make me become even better. If I'm a beaver, I'm gonna be even a better beaver if there are other beavers around me. So,
right.
so in that essence, I agree with you. But the primary directive is still me. I gotta find who I am and who I'm supposed to be, and be that to attain the state of mind that I need to be. If I don't, I'm either gonna be depressed, right? And
Mhm.
miserable because I'm out of my element. A fish out of water, for example, or a person underwater. Put your head underwater and see what happens. So that's the point. Is like, why does a fish go out of water and it's suffering, and we as a human being, you put our heads on the water and we're suffering. So that's
Right.
like we're out of our element. Our purpose isn't to be in the water. So whatever the case, everybody said you have to follow your purpose is because that's how you are made, and you are made to fit in the reality of whatever that combinations of DNA that made up you, in order for you to feel that sense of belonging, of completeness.
Right.
Therefore, if you know you're a beaver, don't try to be, an eagle or lion or snakes or whatever. Say, hey,
Right.
snakes it can be, you know, very fast or very cunning or whatever. I don't care whatever characteristic the society tells you is good. Hey, an eagle has sharp talons and can soar like freely, blah blah. And you want to be there freely, but you're a freaking beaver. If you try to be an eagle, you're gonna be a miserable beaver.
Right.
You can run away from your purpose, but you're gonna suffer. You will suffer a terrible, horrible life, or you can do whatever you're supposed to do. I found out that I'm a beaver. I look in the mirror, I looked around my surrounding, and based on what I see, I'm a beaver. Therefore, I'm gonna be the best beaver I can. I'm gonna have the best
Right.
life, right? Versus, hey, I think the lion is the strongest, and or the king of the jungle. I want to be a lion. And so I go and pretend to be a lion, and I suffer miserably to become a lion because, I have no claw, I have no teeth, I have no strength. You think about it, it's just so silly for our society to say, hey, you should be a lawyer, you should be an attorney, you should be a doctor, you should be this and should be that. I want to be an artist. No, artists, they don't make any money, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying is, people are telling you how to be society as in general, and say, hey, these are the traits. Look at Einstein, look at, whoever, like the strongest man, the I don't know, the fastest man, look at, the Andre Agassi or whoever it is, the best player of this and that, be those people, right? And to me, it's like, oh, you're gonna be like Oprah. So, yeah, Oprah has her thing. That's great for her. But if
Right.
you're not Oprah, don't try to be Oprah. Be
Right.
yourself first. And that's the point is, don't run away from your purpose. You
Right.
can run away from your purpose, but it's going to be terrible for you.
It's gonna
It's
be
a
painful.
think about the stories I just told you. You're a beaver and you're trying to be a lion because the society, the whole jungle, the whole animal kingdom say, hey, look at how gracefully the eagle fly and how strong the lions are and how fast the cheetahs are, and you want to be these, right? Guess what? You're gonna have a miserable existence,
Yeah.
right?
I agree. And not only that, it can also be scary and painful to go do your purpose as well, just to be clear. Sometimes, like just abstract example of Achilles. He knew he was going to die. I mean, and that's okay. If there's anybody that I've ever known that's lived a purpose-driven life, it's my daughter, and she's not here, and that sucks. I don't know what life holds, and I'm
But
not ever going to say it. I'm
yeah.
not ever going to say it, like that's the outcome that I want. But I mean, I'm not also not going to say that my daughter didn't live a purpose-driven life, because she definitely did. She's the one that taught me what that meant.
I'm
And
saying is you live your best life,
yeah,
right? With
exactly.
whatever best is your optimal. It's not to say hey you live the longest or whatever.
Right,
You live the happiest in the most capacity that you had, right? Amelia has like only a short period of time, but she was there and she was fighting with her best effort and she never gave up, and that's her best
right.
life. And to say, well, if Achilles had only up to I don't know, he's like 30, 20, 30 something before he died, right? If
Yeah,
he were to live his fullest in those 20, 30 years versus he's being completely suppressed all of the things he wants to do and always yearning to go out there and to show the world what he can do.
right.
Instead of doing that, he's hiding his talent until like once per moment of having the ability to go out there and do. I think he's on that war for like I don't know about a year or so
Yeah.
of that.
No, no, it was more than that. It was like I'm actually just gonna go look it up really fast, because he was in the Trojan War for like it was like decades. I thought that's why the Trojan War is really famous, because
But
they
regardless, he
Hector, that
wasted
was who killed him. Yeah,
he wasted
Hector predicted that his last dying breath, that Paris and Apollo will slay him at the
it's
Scaean gates leading to Troy.
it's Paris
Yeah,
that
yeah,
killed him.
that's right.
Yeah. But regardless, like up until he was able to join the war, all of his talents, all of his existence has been suppressed and he's always been not happy.
Right.
He wasn't happy. He was miserable up to that point. That's my point. Is
Yeah,
that you're not living to your fullest. I mean, you are wasting away the time that you had. You have
right.
20 years, 30 years, and you wasted like the last, 15 years. Then that's my point. Is like I'm not saying that is. I mean, as far as whether you have sufferings on your own fate and purpose, right? It's still that's that's by random chance. I mean that this is the randomness that we cannot control. We cannot control if atomic bomb comes to you or not, but you can decide how to optimize your time that you had with that purpose. If you are born with a certain, let's say you're born with a certain height, right? You can't really change that, right? You can't say, well, I was born short. I want to be like 7 feet tall so I can play basketball. You just can't do it. And if you live in that kind of a dream, then you're going to have the anxiety. You're going to be worried. You're going to have all these like anxiousness that you shouldn't have, and you wasting all that time while here now somebody else just need that person with this perfect height that you had whatever that height is to do something that only you can do and you're the best at it,
Right.
but you didn't follow that path. You followed a path that wasn't meant for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And it makes me think of the destruction, like your beaver example, which we're really hitting the beavers tonight, which is fine. It reminds me of that, the ecosystem, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when they don't do what they do, the path of destruction that it leaves around everybody else, the wolves, the trees, the bison, and the plains or whatever. I mean, like all the birds that, the salmon that jump in the stream because they're swimming upstream and there's plenty of water to go. I mean, all the different ecosystem of other people. I know it seems crazy, like the linchpin, if you will, of a lot of this stuff is if you live your purpose, you become a linchpin to a lot of other people's purposes. You take yourself out of that, it just destroys the whole ecosystem, and the wake of destruction that gets left in it. You end up staying at war for 10 years when it could have been over in a week, like
Right.
when you end up having people die and suffer and destruction just because you didn't want to embrace who you were.
Compound effect of consequences.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, like you can run away from it. The further you run away from your purpose, the worse the compounding,
Yes,
other side of it is. And
it's
like
a hefty price.
it
I
is for
guarantee you
everybody. It's not even just for like, even if you think that you're not paying a price by not embracing, whatever you feel like the negative is of embracing who you feel like you are, like you other people pay the price for you for not doing that. And yeah, I don't know. It is such a double-edged sword. Like the concept of purpose is in my opinion like so complicated because like I think anybody would say, you know, that's struggling in this world, like I just wish I had a purpose, you know. And then people that have it a lot of times are like, I don't know that I want this purpose. It's like having $1 billion or $1 million or any money, right? People were like, I want money. And then all of a sudden when they have it, they're like, I don't want this. Like, you know, this sucks. Fame or whatever, you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah,
like,
because a lot of time that's not what they are meant to have. If you have things you're not meant to have, then you're not gonna you're not gonna have the peace of mind that you want. Just for
right,
example, if you won the lottery, right? $1 billion, and then you say, well, right now I have $1 billion. Now I'm afraid for my life because people know that I have money and they're gonna
right.
kidnap me for ransom and gonna torture me and all that. And I don't want to end that way. Protecting yourself, whatever. And then having money and having fame is good, and having a ability to live in the spotlight, for example. Like people are saying, well, leave me alone. I don't want paparazzi taking pictures of me all day long and invading my
Woohoo.
home and blah 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 and all that. I say, well, you chose that,
Yeah,
right?
don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, there are certain, you are made in a certain way, and when you are made that way, there's a certain way you have to be to achieve that piece of.
Imagine a beaver being like, man, I hate being wet. Or somebody that wants to become a beaver, but they're like, it looks like being a beaver could be a really good life, but I just really hate getting wet. Do I have to get wet? Like,
Yeah.
that's a part of the job.
I mean, like, as I'm saying is, I don't know if I can make this any clearer. If you're born a beaver, you can't be a lion. You
Right.
just can't. I mean, period. Get that to your head. Like, like I'm Asian. I'm Asian. I can't be a white guy. I can't be, right? If you're born a beaver, be beaver.
Right.
Right? They say, no, no, I'm gonna change my face. You say, well, whatever you want to call yourself, there are options and there are freedoms within those spectrum. But if you're born a certain species or certain characteristics or certain, physical traits or
Or
whatever.
character traits. I mean, what's inside of you. It doesn't even have to be a physical manifestation. It could be just what's inside of your heart and your mind. If you're born that way and you know that that's what it is, then you got to be it.
You gotta be it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have a choice,
Right.
right? So if you try to be a lion when you're a beaver, like I say, it's not gonna be a pretty life for you. Guarantee. Try to prove me wrong.
Right. I know the answer. I know we've talked for years about this. I feel the exact same way. It is hard to know what you're supposed to do sometimes, and
It is this lesson today is don't run away from your purpose. Is don't make it harder. It's already hard.
right. It is,
Okay?
yeah.
I'm not saying it is easy. I'm saying it's harder, much harder, and much more hefty of a price to pay if you ignored who you are. Work with what you have. That's my
I mean, look at
advice to anyone who is willing to listen. Work with what you have. Like if I was born Asian, I was born to have black hair. I can dye my hair all I want, but it's gonna be trouble for me to dye it and it come out again and whatever. It's not a good thing to change who you are.
right. I mean, the most famous human that's probably ever lived is a guy named Jesus Christ. Like, talk about not running away from your purpose. There's a reason why we probably still talk about that guy to this day because we knew his purpose was fucked. And he knew his purpose was fucked, but he was like, I still got to do it. And he did it. And that's why we still talk about him to this day because that's what we strive to be. It's the ultimate example of the greatness of humanity.
Think about it. Even if he tries to run away from his purpose, what will happen? They're just
I
gonna beat
mean,
him. They're gonna beat him up more, and eventually he's still gonna get nailed to the cross. How much torture did you get? Well, you want to get more? Well, run away from it, and you get more torture, right?
and all of his
Yeah.
friends and family would have been killed, and all of the people that he loved in this world would have been destroyed, and all the word that he spread around this world would have been
And all the
like
effort
gone
he
to
did have done,
right,
it went through the gutter.
right, exactly. I mean, like that's what, like we said, if you run the other way, the compound effect is
I
you
mean,
don't want it. It's
you
like, I mean,
pay a hefty price for it. I mean, I'm like
right,
I say, we're not saying anything about saying not running away from your purpose will make your life easy. It isn't. If Jesus Christ were handed that kind of a life, right? If he followed exactly, he minimizes his suffering, he minimizes his loss. But if he run away from it, then he lose a lot more. That's the point, right?
agreed.
So your life, it is by random chance of who you are. You could be, you know, handsome, beautiful, having, whatever, good brains, good genes, whatever. There are some people who don't have it, right? But you can't wish for something because if you do, all you do is making it worse. All you do is making your life a living hell.
Yeah.
Because you think about the people who are want to be skinny like this, the models, right? They suffer for with like bulimia and whatever other kind of atrocity. It's not fun. I mean, to them, it's a miserable existence every day, in mentally and physically.
Right. I'm
So
with
you
you. I agree. All right. I think that might be the most beavers we've dropped in one YOMO episode. So maybe we'll have to go back through when we're all said and done, and we'll have to have
we'll
a
challenge in
beaver.
the next round and see if we can.
Yeah. When we go back and maybe edit these someday, like we need to put a little beaver counter in the bottom right hand corner to know that, like, just for our own knowledge, to say like, oh, that's the highest beaver.
Just talking about this, you're adding more to the beaver.
On the beaver count's off the charts with this one. All right. Well, I'm all out of thoughts on this one. Any final thoughts for yourself?
No, that's it. Don't run away from your purpose. And thanks, Familia, for that great reflection. And that's something I think well put.
Well, thank you very much, and it's just pretty incredible, and I appreciate everybody listening and hearing about Amelia, and I appreciate my new friend Teddy that introduced me to this book. He's a great guy, so hopefully someday he'll be a club member. Who knows, right?
Well, you should bring him on for this one.
Yeah, actually, I did share with him this reflection. He liked it. So, but yeah, thanks for joining everyone, and we will see you all tomorrow. But in the meantime, we'll leave you with the question of: are you running away from your purpose like Achilles, or are you choosing to embrace it head on? Something to consider. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you. Good night.